church where I'm a cultural minority, it really depends on the area that you live in. Because, some areas, they're used to people who are different, and they welcome you and they make you feel at home without feeling like a spectacle. And then there are some who, and I think they're well-meaning, but they go out of their way to say, "Oh, welcome, we love that you're here," and that's, I guess it's good, but it make you feel like you're put on the spot, and it can get awkward and weird. And so it can make going to church a little weird sometimes, where you're like, okay, I've had the sacrament now, let me leave before somebody rushes up to me and asks me what country I'm from or something like that. But I know people are well-meaning, and so I don't want to take away from their intent. Their intent is always, to make you feel welcome and say, I'm so happy to see you here. But sometimes it's just like, just back off. Just wave at me from across the room. We're good.
Yeah. What's my experience like being Black in the church? And that's a question I've pondered for the last 44 years. I'm self-aware that I don't look like everybody else, and I think I'm too aware of that. And I'm starting to understand that everybody feels that way. Now, I've got a great reason to say I feel different, because look at me, I look different. But I'm starting to understand that everybody feels different, and everybody wants to belong.
I guess the hardest part of my experience in the LDS church, I've had a few. Being kicked out of my house was tough. It was really tough. But I always still had a support system. Even though my stepfather kicked me out, my brother and my sisters were all telling me, "We know that you're doing the right thing." So even though they never joined, they were very supportive. One of the other hard things was the whole blacks in the priesthood issue. That became a really, really hard thing. Because you have the world on this side of you saying, Mormons don't like black people, and look, they wouldn't let them have the priesthood until this time, and they folded under the pressure, and that's why blacks got the priesthood. So that was tough. After praying about it, and I prayed about it, and I said, okay, I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. What do I do with this information? What do I do with these feelings? What do I do with this, this history that is, affects me, and it will also affect my kids. It'll affect the way people interact with me. What do I do with this? And my answer was, let it go.
Wow.
And it was a very strong let it go. So I said, okay, I'm letting it go. And so I did my best. Yeah. And then as I did research on the history and the events and the way they unfolded, then it was clear to me what happened. And, and I had an idea of why it happened. And so I said, okay, now I can let it go. I understand to a degree, of what this whole thing was. And so.
The blacks in the priesthood issue, how I dealt with that was, I'm going to say it honestly, was kind of simply. And it's an answer that continues to be answered. Meaning, in the Book of Mormon, there's a promise that one of the prophets gave. And it was very simple. And the promise was, all you need to do is read and then pray. Don't take my word for it. Don't take this person's word for it. The gospel, Jesus Christ, is a very personal thing. The idea that you can read or listen to something and then take a moment by yourself and to ask your Father in heaven about it, and be able to sit there long enough or to ask with enough faith that you can get an answer is profound. And so with blacks in the priesthood, the prayer he answered for me is that you're not alone, you are loved, you will understand. I don't think the blacks in the priesthood issue is something only for people who are black. I think it was a grand thing for people who are not black to appreciate people no matter who they are, how important they are, and to have the moment to look at yourself and then look at someone else and actually say and fight for them that you're my brother, to change that in somebody is a magnificent thing. And to be able to have that moment where the church and people in the church to deal with that subject to the point that they were crying unto the Lord to know that this is the thing they needed to do. And when he said, yes, it's time, they knew that he had changed their hearts in a way they couldn't have been changed if it was just a basic thing. And that is a beautiful thing, because the world, let me tell you, at least for me as a black person, every day is a better day than yesterday. You know, I don't want to go back in history, so every time I go back, it just gets worse. Forward is great. And the world is changing, and the Lord's hand is in it.
I have a personal testimony that Heavenly Father is no respecter of persons. That when you strip away all of the expectations that have been built up because of culture, when you look at someone else and you see them, that it's really just artificial boundaries that we put up. And so we all have the same wants. We all just want to live a good life and have good families and just enjoy life. And so, don't put up so many barriers. Sometimes when you see someone who looks different from you, 9 times out of 10, they're more like you than you realize.
I think that's the battle that I face is, are you alone? And when you think you are, that's when you're not much of a threat. So being black in the church, or being black in Orange County or the United States in general, there's a strong feeling of feeling like you're alone. And especially growing up the way I did, you feel isolated. And the reality is you're not. And the reality is you're never alone.
Since joining the church, I mean, every aspect of your life changes. It changes, or it should change, sometimes the way you dress, the things you read, the things you think about, just basically how you conduct yourself in the world. Because then, once you've accepted this faith, you realize you've decided that, I'm going to go forward, and, you usually will say, I want to be a missionary, if not go on a physical mission, but a part of the mission of the church is to spread the gospel. And so you're doing that sometimes when you're talking to people, sometimes when you're not talking to people. They're watching what you do. They're watching your behavior. They watch the way you treat your kids, the way you treat your neighbors, and so it's everything. It's really everything. So, I guess I don't know what the biggest...
Well, it's like kind of saying,
how it's all big.
Yeah, it's like, how does having an education change your life? It's like, and in many ways you don't know, because you don't know what it would have been like without the education, but you can guess. As well, I'm not on the street. I can feed myself and my family. It's that so encompassing. With me, and Sonja, more Sonja than me, is we're the only people in our families that are LDS. My mom is, my sisters are, and myself, but that's it. And then Sonja is the only one. And so you see what it's like daily, and not only just walking around the street, but just in your house. And what the blessings of it are everything. It's like having a foundation that you know that you are supported and that you can do great things. But it's up to you, but you have the foundation. It's like growing up in a family, in a loving family. And the church it's just like how it was when you read in the New Testament or even in the Old Testament. It's a point of families understanding why they're here and what they need to do to live a better life, but more so than that, to help other people have a better life.